Absolutely. Thank you very much, Lakule. You can join the conversation. We're streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. You could also use the WhatsApp platform 0809 444 to send your message. Don't forget, for YouTube, you can use the chat box to send in your message. Right, let's go on to our first story, Lakunle. Of course, this has dominated news stories around Nigeria, and that is the president's interview with Arise TV yesterday. We'll be reviewing some of the statements that's come out of that interview. From the first one, Premium Times reports fighting corruption in democratic setting difficult. This is according to our president, who said that much was achieved in the fight against corruption when he was military head of state in the early 80s. When a lot of people were sent to prisons before he was also booted out. Amongst these statements, other statements that has been credited to the president is easing out corrupt officials, local government and the corruption between state governments and local governments when they've been given funding, also bandits and other criminals, still using that sentence, the language that they understand. He's saying that in a few weeks we'll see a difference. Then we'll go on to our next headline on grazing routes for herders. But let's start on this note. Don't forget, please join this conversation.
Good morning once again. Let me first of all say thank you to Arise News for at least helping us to get Mr. President to speak to Nigerians for the first time in over 2 years, I think now. Okay, so this story, starting with the corruption bit of it, we've always known that. The bit I don't agree with Mr. President on this is that we ease them out without noise. Let's ease them out with noise. Let's get them prosecuted. We will not catch everybody. Yeah? We'll catch one to make example of those ones so the others know that if they get caught, the same treatment awaits them. There are extant laws to treat these things. On that note, that is why I would say I disagree with it not making noise with it. Let us make noise with it. If you catch somebody who is corrupt, who is proven corrupt in a competent court, let's send the person to let the person face the full wrath of the law. Let everybody know that so and so at so and so time did so and so and is now culpable and is in jail or whatever. On the next one, on the next item on this is that.
But before we even move on to the next item, what do you think about his statement saying that it's more difficult to fight corruption in a democratic setting? He's saying in the military, just move quick. Is it true? Is it more? Does democracy encourage in this way corruption? Does it aid corruption?
Maybe it's a choice of words. You know, in the military, you obey the last order. The man at the top says something, everybody below him falls in line. That's why somebody can wake up in the morning, for example, and say, this football team stands disbanded, and that happens immediately.
Oh, is that not what happened with Twitter?
That's where that's.
Come to understand the difference.
Because now here we are, there are laid out rules of how to prosecute somebody who's been said.
But that's
corrupt.
What I'm saying, like
yes, they are laid, but here we are disputing for Twitter's case.
No,
that
not
there's
for
no
Twitter.
law.
They're not even to. I mean, for other things. So you're saying, I mean, what's the difference?
I'm saying
the number of things that happen there.
Yeah, I'm saying you cannot say this government official is corrupt, so I sack him on the spot. The civil service law or the civil service processes does not give that power to anybody to summarily sack or dismiss anybody.
Okay.
There's a civil service, what's it called, disciplinary process that you go to, which could last 5 years.
Okay.
So if I say, for example, that a certain government official is corrupt, that's the starting point. You face that disciplinary committee, 2, 3, 4 years, it might be that long before it's concluded, before you hand it over to the courts. So that process is what I assume Mr. President is alluding to, meaning it's difficult.
But that means that process is fair, so that you don't, so that people have a fair
chance. That's the spirit
of
that process. Sure that you are not victimizing the individual.
Yes.
That's the spirit of that process. But like I said, that process could last longer than the lifetime of the administration.
So would you say that you agree with the president in that a democratic system of government makes fighting corruption more difficult?
In that context, And don't forget, he said because he himself has experienced being a military leader
Yes.
and now a democratically elected president.
Yes.
He's experienced both. So from his personal perspective, he will see it that way. As military head of state, he just issued one statement: get all those former governors arrested. And it happened. Now he can't do that. He cannot say go and get the governors so and so states arrested. Even if he's going to declare a state of emergency in a state, he's still going to give a very good reason. He can't just wake up and be without something concrete that everybody will see has happened.
Okay. We need to move on. If not, I mean, we can dwell on this for a longer period because there are other democratic governments around the world who are fighting corruption. So that's why I'm wondering why. But I appreciate your statement on this. So let's talk about the other things that he's mentioned.
Okay, so here, would all agree? I'm saying the local government issue, the example you made of local government here. Where do we draw the line? We all know that at least since 1999, the ruling party in the states, when there's local government elections, wins all the local government elections in that state. All councillors, all chairmen, same party. And everybody seems to be calling the favor of the big man, the governor. So whatever the governor says, everybody does. On paper, at FAC, that's the Federal Account Allocation Committee. Monies are shared according to the 3 tiers. But here we are. The state governor goes to the FAC and says, look, the local government in my state, I am the one receiving the money on their behalf. So let's assume they give 100 million or 300 million, like he said, to the local government. And the governor comes back home and says, it's 100 million of the 3 I'm giving you. Does the local government chairman have the power to fight that? Yes, legal power to fight it, yes. But party structure, the big man and the strong man, structure that is already in place, that everybody is scoring in favor. He knows that the governor can sack him for no reason, as we've seen severally that governors come and sack local government chairmen and councillors. He doesn't want to risk that as well. So that's another level of corruption in itself.
Okay.
The governors must be seen when you are attacking the president, the federal government, or for other things. You must also be fair to the lower tier that is below you.
You know, something he said, Lakunle, was that he felt like, okay, if we go to the second story in the Guardian, that's more detailed there, whereby he accused some of the governors of coming to him to help them solve security issues. And he said to them that they were elected, and so they should stop throwing blames. However, some people in their responses to the president's interview are also accusing him of the same thing, that we elected you. I mean, we asked about FDIs, and you mentioned you put the blame on young people and the NSAS protest. A number of things that were mentioned. So is he not, in the same way that they've said that governors who have been elected to that position by the people solve certain problems, in the way we're saying now that, the reason why corruption is not being fought is democracy, security issues is down to the state government, so many things. There's nothing really in terms of owning certain issues or responsibilities for certain problems in Nigeria.
I think that's a general problem with all of us in Nigeria.
No,
we
it's
know
not.
how to
I don't think it's an excuse.
Yes.
Okay.
It's I'm building to the specific.
Okay.
It's a general problem with almost all of us in Nigeria. We know how to apportion blame. We never own the responsibility.
Yeah.
Now, for much of the conversation yesterday, Mr. President was trying to stand behind the law to say, this is what the law says about certain things. And so don't come and ask me. The law already empowers you to do things. Now, a governor is the chief secretary of the state according to the law. But the same law, consciously or unconsciously, precludes him from being able to act out that title of chief security officer. The commissioner of police in the state is not answerable to him. He may speak with the commissioner of police at 11:59 p.m. last night, and by the same 12 midnight, he has a different commissioner of police.
So who is the commissioner of police? Who is the
because
commissioner of police?
Because the IG is in Abuja, he can change him within a minute.
you.
So,
Okay.
so that's one aspect of saying that the man is the chief security officer of the state, but he cannot act that role. The other one quickly is the issue of, he mentioned, I think it's in the other story, he mentioned something about a gazette, about grazing routes,
Yes.
and so on and so forth.
Let me take that headline because that's quite important.
So before I lose my line of
Okay.
thought, so he says there's a gazette for that. Let's assume that majority of us are ignorant about that. He said it was in the First Republic. Has there been any law since then to override that gazette? No, according to his story. So if that exists, there was a Land Use Act that vested all powers of land administration in the governor. Did it exclude those gazetted routes from that Land Use Act? If it has not, so there is a conflict in that place. Can our lawmakers, the National Assembly, correct that? Can we make a law to first of all override that that gazette that recognizes those routes, those grazing routes, or can we say inclusive or exclusive of those routes in the Land Use Act, or can we just repeal the Land Use Act itself? Something is apparently, so there are so many things to me it appears that there are inconsistencies even in the statements that we ordinarily would say, okay, this is the reason why you should be able to do this and not do that. But the bottom line is also that there is the morality of majority of those things, that as president, you should be a solution find all the states via the IG, who gets it from the commissioners of police for a state. So even if you are not asked, you should be able to call the governor and say, do you need help? What can we do to solve it?
Especially in security
Exactly.
matters, yeah.
He's spoken about going to local governments. Yes, in our village we grew up knowing that there was a committee that handled things like farmer headers problems. Growing up, we knew that happened, yeah. But some of us didn't know that it was even a law as children. We just knew that when cattle come and eat up somebody's farm, there's a committee they go to, they discuss these things, they ask them
Like
to
a
pay.
dispute resolution.
Yes. But we didn't even know that it was a law. We just thought, okay, it was just something that because we wanted to live harmoniously, you know. But so if those are the kind of things that exist, the president should say, look, you have a problem there. Let me help you. Let the governor or the local government, don't let us these are matters that we cannot live for one person. Apparently, for the governor to come and meet him, it means that the governor is already overwhelmed. That's why he's seeking help. So you can't send him back to go and do what he doesn't have power to.
The governor would also go to meet him because, again, like you've highlighted, the IG of police reports to him, not the governor. And so there's the governor's powers are limited when it comes to security and, you know, his remit as the chief security officer. But in talking about that story, I think let me give context to that for those who didn't know what he said. And he said, while fielding questions in the 44-minute long interview, the president said he had asked the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, to begin the process of recovering land from persons who have converted cattle grazing routes for their personal use. He said that he has given approval to the return of open grazing practice during the First Republic, where herdsmen used designated grazing routes to move cattle to several parts of the country. Now, this was a big one because, of course, we know that the South Governors Forum Southern Governors Forum have said that they are banning open grazing, and here's the president going totally against what they've agreed on. And now you're talking about, governors should go and handle their states, but then you're overriding a decision made by a coalition of state governors who think that who have assessed the situation and feel that this is the best decision to take for their states.
Apparently, this gazette must be the reason the Attorney General was so blatant in his stance.
No, but let me read Tunde's comment, and I was going to ask that question, and I was going to ask the lawyers in terms of which then trumps which. Tunde says, the gazette for the grazing route is for the defunct northern Nigeria. The Land Use Act is in the constitution and overrides such gazette period. It would be nice to know, and it's, this is what we talk about. We have an SAN as the Attorney General of the Federation. It would be good to see how this is interpreted according to the law. Because going back to your first statement as to, the president saying about the democratic setup of Nigeria, we are governed by rule of law, and so if we're going to follow the rule of law, there's certain I don't want to use the word decrees, there's certain decisions you cannot make if it doesn't tally with the law. So it would be good to see how this is interpreted. Thank you so much for bringing up the issue.
Another thing, just to add to that, is that we'll need to confirm with lawyers who can help us is to say when something is gazetted, does it not make it part of the laws of the country?
Well, he says the defunct northern region, so perhaps in the new, maybe it was pre-1999 when the constitution was amended.
Okay. Okay, so.
All right, thank you. So Shannon from Liquid said, it's very clear that we're a country of confusion and confucionists, like I'll continue to say, until we begin to take responsibility and hold ourselves and each other accountable for our actions, we will continue to roam aimlessly.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go on to our next one. Another big one here. Despite widespread criticism, and now again going to the rule of law, that I'm glad that we started on that note. Nigerian government commences social media regulation. The social media bill was kicked widely and didn't get passed. And people did mention that they're hoping that it wouldn't pass through the back door, some of the provisions of this bill, or of that bill. Fortunately, we have seen this play out. As the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, yesterday has said that he has already directed the National Broadcasting Commission to commence the process of licensing all OTT and social media operations in the country. The NBC, as part of implementing the directive, has also asked all broadcast stations to suspend usage of their Twitter accounts with immediate effect. We brought that news to you. And so that's why we can't access information or take your comments on Twitter, unfortunately. So please, Lakune, take us through the story.
Any country owes it a responsibility to ensure that consciously or unconsciously chaos is not created in the country. We need to manage that. Having said that, it is also important to also note that in doing that, you have to have laws to back up whatever action you take in ensuring that you don't create a state of anarchy. So if you have laws, to what extent do you want to enforce that law? Can you then wake up one day and do things outside of the laws that we have created? In that instance, I think that the federal government has acted outside of the laws guarding this country. The NBC, I think, may have overreacted in saying suspend all these things. Having said that, also, the most important part of this story for me, which I highlighted here, is this paragraph that the minister, that Alhaji Mohammed said. We found out that Twitter is actually a platform of choice for a particular separatist leader who resides outside the country and issues directives to its members to attack symbols of government authority, such as police, military, electoral commission offices, correctional centers, and this is being done fully consistent without any consequences from Twitter. I think that we're actually using a sledgehammer to kill an ant. Because of one person, you are denying over 3 million other users of access to the platform. This same person had been charged to a court of law in Nigeria. He'd been granted bail. The guarantors of his bail are still in Nigeria. You are not arresting them to produce the man they stood shorty for. One of them is the Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria today. But it is easier to stop 3 million people from using the platform. Some of them use it for some people's livelihood depends on it. It's easier to do that for us. I think, and on that basis, I think that yes, we may have overreacted. For some of us, it does not affect our source of livelihood. We would move on. We'll move on to other things. But here we are. It also stretches and then goes to say, for these platforms to work in Nigeria, they must register in Nigeria as going concerns so that they can pay tax and they can then operate properly. Lo and behold, yesterday, the government moved to another platform and the platform announced that they are now the official host of the communication channel of the federal government of Nigeria. Has that business opened office in Nigeria today?
That's cool.
Yeah. I didn't want to mention the name. Has that business opened office in Nigeria today? Have they commenced processes of opening that office in Nigeria today? So there are so many things that we do. When these things happen this way, it suggests that there is more to these actions, much more than just ordinarily because of one person or because of whatever it is that these actions are being taken. And this is why there's so much mistrust and distrust between the government and the people. We need to come clean. This is why we're doing this. Put everything on the table. Everybody would see it. We are reasonable people.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of anger in the land. I keep saying this thing every time. There's a lot of anger in the land. The government owes this responsibility to the people to help diffuse this anger, no matter what. We cannot say, there's this attitude when of general of parenting in Nigerians that so you have done something. The best punishment is I'll deny you your next meal. That is what I think the Nigerian government is doing to the Nigerian people. Yeah. Because you have done something, so I must deny you your next meal. That's what I think we're doing, and we need to be careful because it is very important that we don't drive dissent underground. Yeah. In every place where dissent has been driven underground, the outcome is always not very good. We are doing that. The Nigerian government is possibly, maybe they don't understand, maybe they don't know it. That's what we're doing. And we need to consciously ensure that we don't do that.
Very well said. Thanks. Frank from Berger says, just talking about what you're saying, the parent and child approach, that why is it that whenever President Buhari addresses Nigerians, there's always an aura of bunch of ingrates from him to us? This is what Frank is saying. But we've talked about a few things, and I like, going to what you said about there's a lot of, anger, upset amongst Nigerians. Let's diffuse that a bit, or diffuse that. And let's talk about some good news. Buhari flags off Lagos-Ibadan railway operations in the Guardian newspaper. President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday flagged off full commercial operations on the Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line project, describing it as another milestone in revitalization of railway projects to boost economic activities in Nigeria. Please tell us about this. I've seen that railway station. Funny enough, I saw for the first time just last week. I haven't driven on that road, as you have Macaulay, in a very long time, and I was impressed. I was wowed by this gigantic or whatever the name is.
I'm excited.
It's a very exciting project. So tell us what would be the implication of this for the people, for transportation in Lagos and Nigeria, for movement of goods, and just to give us a general idea of what it's going to do for us.
Yay! Congratulations, Nigerians.
Congratulations.
Like I've said here severally, any form of good news we need to celebrate. And I congratulate the federal government of Nigeria. I congratulate the Honorable Minister for Transport. I congratulate the governments of Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo. At least that's the three states where this 156 kilometers traversed. I think that if we take loans from wherever, the World Bank, from sovereign governments of other countries, from wherever, and we commit those funds to projects like this, I think that much of the solutions to the issues we have would probably just naturally go away. And now, Lagos State government, when is our red line and blue line going to come online? It's like 8 years now. If possibly we get this done, it also complements this one. Don't forget that Yaba is not the end of our real line. It's being extended to the ports, which also means that the issue of creating dry ports in either Ogun or Oyo, which means that I can then order goods from anywhere in the world and say that my destination port is somewhere in Oyo State. So it means that I can only go and wait in Oyo State. It helps us to reduce the pressure on Apapa, which we know. It helps us to reduce the traffic on the roads to Lagos all the time. And then for the people, we now finally have another alternate source of travel,
Yes.
possibly safer. Rail travels is assumed to be one of the safest means of transportation in the world, the forms of travel. For the governments of the three states I earlier mentioned, particularly Ogun and Oyo, this is the time to create environments around the stations. Ogun has at least 3 stations in Agbado, Labir, and somewhere else. I think Abeokuta itself. So how about creating an economy around those 3 stations for Ogun State? Oyo has another, I think, another 3. How about creating an environment, an economic environment around those places? For Nigerian Railway Corporation, congratulations once again to you two. I missed out that at the beginning. The ball is in your court. Please don't let the ball drop. Maintenance. Let's, and then to the people, please, let's use this responsibly.
Yeah.
Let's keep these lines going on. And then for the federal government, when are we getting to Kano?
He said that's part of the plan, so they're looking to link this all up. So it's part of a bigger railway network from Lagos to Kano.
Definitely,
yes.
We won't get to Kano before 2023, except something bigger than I imagine happens. But whenever it is that we're able to get to, let's get there so that the incoming administration will have no choice but continue to build on what this one achieves wherever we stop.
Fantastic. I do think that the president is looking to work. I mean, this is one of what they want to be one of their biggest legacies for this administration. That's the Lagos Kano Railway Network. So let's see if they will be able to achieve it before the year 2023. And like you said, it would be such a massive addition in terms of.
I look forward to it. I look forward to get to seeing something. If we can get to Kano by 2023, it will be great.
Wonderful.
But wherever it is we get to, it's a massive job, and like I said, one cannot but celebrate this.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next one. Important information punch. Tomorrow is June 12th. A number of emotions. Some people are looking forward to it. Some people are a bit apprehensive. Some people are laying low. Some people they have already received some security advisory, asking people to stay at home, asking people to not, even for today, flexible working hours and the likes. The Lagos State government has asked youths in the state to shun acts of violence and pursue peace as the nation celebrates Democracy Day on June 12. The Commissioner of Youth and Social Development, Mr. Segun Daudu, stated this in Alausa, Ikeja, where he received members of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Lagos State chapter.
June 12th, every year, I remember, even as a teenager, what I went through. I traveled all the way from Ilorin. I was in the university there to Ibadan to go and mobilize, encourage, and participate in the elections. I saw how we moved people, fed people, and all that so that they go to vote. The activity, the election itself on that day, and the subsequent events that led to where we are today are things that should be the uppermost in our minds and in our actions tomorrow. I would like to appeal to all those whose